Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our Monday Night Raw review. Now, this was the go-home Raw before WrestleMania 31 this Sunday, and I gotta say, I was thoroughly entertained by tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw, save for one segment, which we'll get into, I'm sure, in a few moments, but before that, I'm gonna pass the ball over to my cohort and commentary. Ashton, what'd you think of this go-home show tonight?
Well, let me tell you something, brother. I was all ready to give this show my highest score of any Raw of the Wrestlemania season. I was going to give it an 8.5, maybe even a 9 if the last segment was really good. But that last segment was so bad that it actually dropped my score down potentially an entire point. I went from what could have been a 9 all the way down to just a flat 8.
Yeah, man. I mean, an 8's nothing to scoff at, but it just goes to show how one segment can really sully a disposition or really make you, reassess some things, because I just did not like the execution of it all. But you know what? Let's stop talking about it here and kick it into high gear, because it's heat of the night.
I think we're going to share one this time, brother.
And it's the only one I have, so would you allow me to do the honors?
Go for it.
The closing segment, the confrontation between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar.
If you can call it that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, how can you even call it? I don't think that when I played Tug of War in 6th grade, anyone would have called it a confrontation.
Now, for those of you who may have, skipped out on this segment, because I know some people are feeling pretty down in WrestleMania season, why Ashton made reference to Tug of War is because that's literally what took place. Heyman cut his usual promo, and I think even he got tired of hearing himself talk, because he literally said at one point, yak, 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 and just making the accents. Says, look, if I haven't sold you at this point of Brock Lesnar giving Roman Reigns the beating that he deserves at WrestleMania, I never will. Pretty much saying that Roman Reigns would have to just take everything else from Brock Lesnar to almost become Brock Lesnar to be able to beat Brock Lesnar and take the world championship from him. He just said it's not going to happen. Roman Reigns comes out. Now, it's starting out pretty solid, right? Because I liked Heyman's promo. Reigns comes out. He's doing the silent game. I like that. You don't need to get a microphone and try and trade. You'd really be trading the barbs with Heyman, and you don't want to do that. I think that's as uneven ground as you can get. He snatches the title from Lesnar. Lesnar kind of gives him this look, like, oh, you serious? You want to do this? And
proving that when you catch Brock Lesnar by surprise, it is in fact possible to out-reaction time him, maybe?
Yeah, I guess, maybe.
I hate that, because it's like, I mean, if you wanted Roman to prove that he was stronger than Lesnar, that's not the way to do it. If you wanted Roman to prove that he's more determined than Lesnar, that's not the way to do it. Literally, the only thing that proves is that Roman Reigns is capable of catching Brock Lesnar by surprise.
First of all, I completely agree with you. And then, to continue, he poses with the title. Then Lesnar tries actually taking it back. And then, the game of tug of war ensues. And that's where we close.
Yeah.
There are so many things wrong with this, I don't even know where to start. But I'm going to try. First off, this is only their second confrontation in the entire WrestleMania season. The first one being the segment they did in Connecticut when Raw was snowed in. I love that segment. I thought Paul Heyman, kind of laying the foundation, was masterful. And the stare down between Reigns and Lesnar, I dug it big time. But then you figure, the second confrontation, really it's been Heyman kind of pulling the cart a little bit, and Roman Reigns, you'd almost think he was feuding with Heyman, because Lesnar, maybe he would show up and kind of stand around, but he never really had any kind of altercations with Reigns. So this is a big deal. Not to mention, again, it was your go-home show before Mania. So you think, okay, we got to up the stakes a little bit. Now, what I would have loved, right, you could have done two things here. Because, again, I liked what they were doing, but just that punctuation was so meh. You could have had Lesnar kick Reigns in the gut, level him with an F5, and take the title back that way to say, hey, you're not going to trek in my house that easily and with such audacity, see you at Mania. Or you really could have done the tug of war. I would have been cool with that. But then have Reigns let go of the belt, bounce off the ropes, do a Superman punch, and maybe set up for a spear, but Lesnar makes the escape.
That is almost word for word what I was going to say. I was going to say have Lesnar overpower Reigns by throwing him into the ropes, but Lesnar keeps a hold of the title, and then Reigns bounces off the ropes and comes back with a spear or a Superman punch or something, and Lesnar rolls out of the ring. Basically no-sells the offense, but still gets knocked back enough to get out of the ring, and then he and Heyman walk up the ramp. That's all it would have taken, and I would have been like, yes, boom, sold, 9. But they just had a freaking tug of war, and like, it was so incredibly corny because it was like those pre-fight UFC press conferences where the guys do the weigh-in, and then they get face to face, and they hold one of their fists up, and then they take a bunch of pictures, and that's what they use for the promo. That's basically what this was. These two guys playing tug of war over the title, they were literally posing like that for like 30 seconds. I would half expecting them to both look at the camera and smile.
Dude, again, completely agree with you on all points, but my second biggest problem with this, it's like everything prior to this just translates horribly into this segment, because you have Lesnar with this poise and this, collected calm and this confidence say, I am gonna F Roman Reigns up. Roman Reigns, on the contrary, I don't know if it's the appropriate word, but I'm saying he's a bit frantic. He's hearing people say, you can't beat Brock Lesnar. Lesnar's going to give you the ass-kicking of a lifetime. He took out Mark Henry because he felt like Mark Henry was just kind of like the manifestation of that doubt, spearing him to the security barricade. So you would think, for both of these guys and their respective dispositions, something was going to burst, something was going to boil over. And that's what it amounts to.
Yeah.
Lesnar has been this ass-kicking mercenary, and I only say that, Heyman kind of challenged that, but Lesnar himself, to Ashton's point when we were talking during this Raw, has called himself a mercenary. So he's been this ass-kicking mercenary since day one. However you feel about Roman Reigns, he was the muscle of the Shield, he was the badass, just keeping it succinct, and those spears are devastating. So these are guys, they're heavy hitters. And it's a game of tug of war. I just did not translate.
And you know what the worst thing to me is? I always feel like every year, there needs to be that one WrestleMania match. But it's got to be one of the main events. And right now, with the 3 main events of this show are Triple H Sting, Brock Reigns, and Wyatt Taker, right?
Right.
I always feel like every WrestleMania, one of the 3 big main event matches needs to culminate the build-up needs to culminate in a brawl. And we've gotten literally 0 physical contact between Bray Wyatt and The Undertaker because Taker hasn't been around. The only physical contact we've gotten between Triple H and Sting were basically just Sting doing a Scorpion Death Drop on Triple H to kind of shut him down because Triple H was getting too ornery. And there's been no physical contact whatsoever between Reigns and Lesnar. And tonight, when Sting and Triple H didn't have any physical contact, I was like, okay, this works. I'm cool with this. But now Lesnar and Reigns need to frickin' brawl.
Yeah, and I was anticipating a brawl. I mean, you had Heyman the week prior, kind of give that evil smirk to Renee saying, oh, Brock's going to be in the building next week. And you had all the interactions that they had, prior. And again, it all began for me, my hype, the Connecticut interaction between Reigns and Lesnar. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, something's boiling over. I would have settled for a spear. I would have settled for an F5. Even a Superman punch where, like you said, Ashton, Lesnar no-sells it, but he does kind of get away with the title. A little morsel is all you and I were asking for.
Yeah.
And we got this.
Nothing. We got literally nothing. They call this physical contact. At the end of the day, they weren't even touching each other. They were both touching a belt. So unless you consider physical contact through the transitive property to count, this wasn't physical contact.
I have seen Brock Lesnar mess people up for less. And Roman Reigns touches his championship, the championship that Heyman has pretty much said is Lesnar's hostage.
Yeah.
He's going to take it to UFC.
And then the worst thing is, literally 5 minutes prior, Heyman was saying that if you want to take this title away from Brock Lesnar, you would have to go to his home, take his wife, take his children, or rename his children. He made it personal, and then Reigns shows up and literally just grabs the title out of Lesnar's hands. How did Lesnar think, oh, I want the title back, rather than thinking, I need to end this human being's life.